Hello everyone. Welcome to our 2021 New Maize Crop webinar. We are very pleased to welcome you this year. My name is Elise Grolière, and our speaker today will be Claude Gagnol. Just a few information about this webinar, the classics. All attendees are on mute. If you have any question during the webinar, please ask them on the right part of your screen. So in the questions part of Livestorm, we will make sure to answer to it at the end of the webinar. If we don't have time to answer to all of it, we will come back to you personally to get back to you about that. And as usual, the presentation will be sent after the webinar. So the agenda for today, Claude will present the market fundamentals, followed by a focus on the maize market review on the maize crop worldwide, in Europe and in France. And at the end, we will have our Q&A session. Just a few words about Claude Gagnol. He's our Integrated Chains and Purchasing Director here at Limagrain Ingredients, but he's also the USM president. So USM is a French French maize milling industry, also EURONEXT president, so it's the European maize milling industry. And here at Limagrain Ingredients, he's our wheat and maize sourcing specialist. That's why he's taking care of this webinar. Claude, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good evening to our friends from Asia, Korea, Taiwan, and so on. So it's a pleasure to share again this market review. Many things have happened since last year, and now the situation, I would say, is quite complicated and difficult to understand, to follow up, and to predict anything for the future. So I will try to give you more highlights and more perspective to help you to take the right decision at the right time, but it's a difficult task. So the comment I will be bringing to you are some comment that we are making from the existing situation, but of course for the future it's very difficult to predict anything. So let's start with the most important event that we have observed during last few months. And as you know, we have faced once again a very important weather market and on the worldwide context, because generally speaking, we have been facing three major climate issues. One was in South America because of the drought, which has impacted on the corn production. And the second one is due to the very huge heat wave in Canada and North US area during late spring and early summer, but mainly during late spring. And it has impacted a lot the spring wheat, canola, corn, lentils, crops. So, and the last, not the least maybe, but we have observed as well a drought in Russia. It was not a severe drought, but it was not, I would say, expected, because the market situation was so tight that it was very sensitive to any additional weather issue. So in the meantime, in France, we did not face any problem, but we observe a lot of rainfall, and it has delayed the crop. And when the crops are late, of course, it is bringing some tension on the market and on the availability of the new crop to make the connection between the last crop and the new one, whatever it is for the wheat and for the corn. So as you can imagine, the weather market is back. We need less than that to bring the speculation in the market. And now it's definitely a key fact, during, at least for the time being. So there is a lot of speculation, and every day you can get some news in your newspaper, on the broadcast, etc., giving new prediction for the weather, new prediction for the acreage, for the volume, etc. And the day after, you can get some opposite information. So every day it's a different story. So for sure, the climate is getting warmer and warmer. It's not a news. We know that for a long time, but it's a reality which is more and more important every year. So as a consequence, we have observed a significant price increase for the wheat and the corn. But the most important event which has occurred last spring was correlated to the fact that the corn has taken the lead of the market. Usually, the wheat is the driver of the market, and during few months, May, June, and July, the corn has taken the lead of the market as a market driver. So because of the lack of the corn, especially because of the low production of corn in South America, Brasilia mainly, because the corn production has dropped by 20 million tons of corn within, I would say, a few weeks between expectation and reality. So it has a lot of impact on the market. Now the wheat is back to take the lead of the market since the new crop end of July has occurred. So in the meantime, you have observed this important demand from China. So you have the weather market, but at the same time, the Chinese company, the Chinese government, and the Chinese user have expressed a very important need of corn and soya, so which was not usual. Just to give you an example, they have imported more than 25 million tons when usually it's around 6-7 million tons. So 20 million tons more or less in the market, which was available. So it is creating a lot of tension in the market on the price and the availability of the corn and as well of the soya. So it was making a new stress in the market, and the consequence, of course, was the price increase of the raw material. So we don't know where we go with the Chinese demand. It is expected this year much less than last year, but as usual with the Chinese data, it's very difficult to see how the outcome of the situation. So now the speculation is at its high, and it's difficult to say when it is ending. At least we can observe only in one day very important fluctuation for the corn price or the wheat price. You can have a 6, 7, 8 euro difference between the morning and the evening. So it makes a lot of disturbances when it comes to buy the corn or the wheat, because you can save some money or lose a lot of money in the same day. So it's very difficult as a user of corn to buy at the right time if you don't have any aging tools. So in addition to that, everybody knows that we are facing this after COVID situation with a strong resuming of the global activity on the world planet. So, and we are observing a lot of inflation, not only for the cereals, but whatever it is as a raw material, but as well transportation. Just to give you an example for the transportation, when you want to ship a container from Asia to Europe, usually you pay around $2,000, and now it's more than $14,000. So it has multiplied by 7, and you can imagine the impact on the delivered cost of the raw material or the article we can source from China, for instance. So it is important to consider the transport cost as a new parameter, significant parameters, and it is relocate the origin of the needs, meaning that closer you are from the storage of the corn or the wheat, better it is, because you can escape high transport cost. So back to the key market parameters. The major there is hello. So the major criteria, of course, it's the acreage of the crop, the wheat and the corn. Wheat and the corn are the most important cereals on the planet, and it is important to consider the acreage for each crop. And of course, it is leading some expectation in terms of volume. Then we have to consider the ratio stock over consumption, as well the ending stock. And this is two very important criteria, which is at the moment impacting a lot on the price level of the cereals. The rice is playing some roles as well, but to less extent. And then you have the exchange rate between dollar and euro or local currency, which can play a role in the interest to source from one area or another one. You have as well some possible additional parameters like the weather market. It's not possible today. It's very important parameters during winter and summer, because you can have frost in winter and you can have drought in summer. And then you have the political instability and the sanitary crisis, which is a new parameter that we have definitely observed last 16 months. So, and at the end, you have as well the worldwide commodity market, oil, mineral, and so on. And you can see at the moment that the cost of the oil is on the upside, and it is impacting the cost of the production cost. And at the moment, for instance, we observe a huge cost increase for the nitrogen, and the farmer, they are wondering if they can afford such a price, because the price of the nitrogen has multiplied by 2.5 within a few weeks, and it is making the production cost for the corn, which is very demanding in terms of nitrogen, at a high level. So, and this is impacting as well the market trend. You have some underestimated data. The production and the consumption and the stock in China. China is a large consumer, a large importer, so it is very important to get accurate figures from this country. Unfortunately, it is not really the case, and we are missing some clear data from this important country. And as well, you can have some political decision which could impact the raw material specification. We can see, for instance, this year in Europe, the specific weight of the wheat is very low, and some countries have decided to be more flexible in terms of specific weight as a criteria in the raw material specification. So it is helping the trade, or it can as well make the situation more difficult to trade the raw material. Okay, so let's have a look on the European corn market. So first, you have to know about the pace of the crop and the different period we harvest according to the South Hemisphere or North Hemisphere. The North Hemisphere is very important for wheat, for corn as well, but the South Hemisphere is very important for corn, especially from Brazil and Argentina. Do not forget that Brazil, they are collecting more or less 110 million tons of corn. This year it's below 80 million, but usually the potential of the crop is 110 million out of 1,200 million tons on the world scale. In US, it's around 380 million tons of corn which are produced each year. So you can imagine that in between the two countries, it is 50% of the total world corn crop. So it is important to consider that. And in Brazil, they start harvesting by February until end of June. This year, they had a late crop, so which has lasted until end of July. So, and Argentina, it's a little bit earlier. In the North Hemisphere, so France, US, Spain, Ukraine, which are the major players, Russia as well. So you can see that it is at the same time, September, October, November. So the wheat crop is representing around 780 million tons, For the corn, it's 1,200 million tons. So you can see that the wheat is mostly produced on the North Hemisphere, and the corn, it's more or less not balanced, but 1/3 on the South Hemisphere and 2/3 on the North Hemisphere. Let's talk about the key parameters which are leading the market. First, it's the production of the corn, for instance, and you can see that this production level is on the rise for a long time. The global consumption is as well following the production, so which is a good thing. But when we observe a bad crop, immediately it is impacting the ending stock and the carryover. So, and the carryover for the corn, you can see this is the green graph. So you can see that it is at the low level, and this is making the tension on the market. So when the stock are reducing, it is creating a lot of problem in the market. But you can see that they are not as low as they have been in the past. So the market today is much more sensitive than in the past, because there is a fear, especially for the countries who are exporting, who are trading the corn. And when the raw material is missing in that countries, it is creating a lot of tension on the stock market. So the country who are not exporting the corn, they don't play any role apart when they are importing the corn, like China, for instance. For the wheat, it's more or less the same situation. So it is making when you consider corn and wheat, it is making the situation more tense, because you can substitute the corn by the wheat or the wheat by the corn, because most of the raw material, whatever it is, wheat and corn, are destined to animal feeding. So, of course, a large part is destined to food industry or food, but the largest quantity is going to animal feeding. So the two markets are very much connected, and you can see it is the same story for the wheat. We have the production is on the rise as well, and the consumption as well, and the ending stock, they are at a low level, because you can see that they are a little bit reducing for a few years. But in the past, we have made some situation in 2006, 2007, where the stock of the ending stock of the wheat were below 150 million tons, when they are just below 300 million tons at the moment. So it's a strange situation, but once again, when we have it is generated a lot of speculation, and the market nowadays is much more sensitive to the speculation and any variation of availability of the raw material, especially when the demand is growing. So just some highlight about the key players of the market. As already said, the states, they are ranking as the first one with 380 million tons of corn. But you have to consider that out of the 380 million tons, 160 million tons are dedicated to the ethanol production. So at the moment, because of the environmental rules, this production of ethanol is necessary, and we don't see any reduction of corn use for the ethanol production. But in the meantime, if we can imagine only 1 minute that the US government would like to reduce the use of corn to make ethanol by 10 or 20 million tons, it could create a significant impact on the market. So we could have 10 or 20 million tons more available in the corn market, which could, I would say, relax the market a little bit. So it's just a governmental decision to be taken, but it's not the case for the time being. Brazil, 117 million tons. This year it's only 80 million tons, 86, 87 million tons. The EU, it's not a great player for the corn. EU is more important for the wheat, but we are producing just below 70 million tons of wheat of corn in EU. The same are in Argentina, and then you have Ukraine. And this year Ukraine is expecting a nice crop, 8 million tons over last year, and it's a good news because we need more corn. And you can see that the total availability of the corn is more important this year than the last year. But you have to consider that for the Brazil, it's just a forecast at the moment because they are just seeding the corn. So the seeding is the plantation of the corn is doing, I understand, quite well. The acreage should be nice. So at the moment, the market is expecting more than 115 million tons of corn for the next crop. But the next crop is taking place, the harvest is taking place next spring, 2022. So it's a long way to run before getting this corn available in the market. And for China, importation are expected to fall, of course, but we expect a lot of reduction of importation. But once again, it's a prediction, it's not a reality, and we have to wait because every time the Chinese companies are coming to the market to buy 1 million tons, the market is reacting immediately with a price increase. Concerning the European market, so I would say it's stable compared to last year. We have less acreage for the corn, but much better yield because last year we have observed a significant drought as well in Europe, especially on the west side of Europe. And this year, the crop situation is very good, generally speaking, late, but very good in terms of yield. So the good yield will be compensating the lack of acreage. So giving at the end the same volume, more or less the same volume as last year. This is a good news, but we have to say that the market is becoming more local. So we expect to import less this year in Europe compared to last year, of course. And the transport costs are so high that, of course, it is encouraging the local demand and local trade. So that is giving a local business, which is important, and the demand is very strong on the local way. In France, same situation as the European level. We have less acreage, but very nice yield, hopefully, because we are exiting from 2 or 3 years with a very bad crop, generally speaking, because of the drought. This year, the yield is good, and hopefully it will bring some more, I would say, relaxing situation on the French market. But at the moment, the corn is very much demanded because the connection between old crop and the new one is difficult to perform due to the late harvest. At the moment, only 15% of the crop is over. Normally, it should be more than 40 or 50%. So we have to be careful with the quality of the corn, especially when we consider the food grade quality. So far, we did not observe any mycotoxin issue, but the later is the harvest, the more important is the risk to develop mycotoxin. So be careful for that because the harvest is late, and I think that it should last until end of November, early December, if we want to harvest everything, because when we have more quantity to harvest, of course, there is a drying step, which is taking more time to perform. So just an overview on the price level. On this graph, you have 5 years crop, which are represented in terms of price level. And you can see that whatever it is, the wheat or the corn, the situation is quite tricky because the price level is very high. So once again, the market is very sensitive, but the trend is there. This year, we are facing a high price level for the wheat and for the corn. So the wheat, the price of the wheat has calmed down early July, but it has resumed very significantly as from end of July, early August, and to reach some highs. Last week it was around 275 euro per ton. So now it's around 265, 268, but still on the high level, and we can see it is consistent. We don't expect significant drop for the price of the wheat for one main reason, which is the quality of the wheat. The quality of the wheat this year is not so good because of this matter of specific way. 30% of the French crop has been discarded for the animal feeding, and it cannot go to the food industry because of the low specific weight. So that means the specification, which is considered at the EURONEXT level, is based on the food grade level, and the specific weight is 76 kilograms per hectoliter, and most of the crop this year was below 74, and 30% of the crop was below 72. So the right quality wheat is not so much available, and it makes a lot of tension. And once again, you have as well the ending stock, etc., the same story as before. For the corn is following the wheat, and there is usually 15-20 euro difference for the corn price, lower price for the corn, of course, but the corn is following the trend because, once again, the two crops are very much connected. The animal feeding sector is the main driver, the main sector which is demanding the raw material. And the corn, so it is on the high level as well, to less extent. Maybe we can expect some calm down in terms of price-wise because the harvest is there. The harvest is good at European level, so and it will be meeting the demand for sure. But once again, there is the wheat situation, which is still leading the market and impacting as well on the price level of the corn. So let's see what is happening, but be careful because generally speaking, we don't see any significant drop before maybe the next information we can get from the market, which is about the acreage of the corn in the South America, meaning at the end of December, we will better know what is happening with Brazil and Argentina. And as well, we have to follow up the wheat crop in Argentina. So far, so good, I would say, but they are starting or they are about to harvest the wheat in Argentina. So if the wheat is good, it could bring some as well calm down in the market. But Argentina is not a great player in terms of wheat production. So until end of this year, we don't see how the market could significantly change compared to what it is at the moment. So once again, you can see the price level of the corn. Concerning the synthesis of the corn crop, so about the bullish factors, the good US crop volume remains to be confirmed. So far, definitely in US, the crop is better than what we could expect a few weeks ago because of the heat wave. So if it is confirmed, it will be calming down the market for sure, but not very much because the demand is still there. Then you have the Chinese demand, which is still high, but unknown at the moment. And the demand has been already integrated in the stock market. So the market has considered a lower import in China of corn and wheat. So it's already in the figures of the EURONEXT market, the EURONEXT price. Then the low carryover is still there, even though it is improving. The situation is still at the low level. You have as well to consider the price of oil, which is impacting on the production, the cost of the fertilizer, for instance. You can see as well the price of oil for the vegetable oil, which is impacting on the price of the rape seeds and the sunflower seeds. So there is a competition in between the different crops. So when you have, for instance, high price level for the sunflower or the rapeseed or the soya, of course, the farmer, they prefer to plant the more valuable crop. And it is not in favor of the corn because the corn is very much demanding in terms of fertilizer and so on. So the cost production of the corn is at high level compared to the other crops. So the market is afraid about a possible shortage of fertilizer. The Chinese country has closed down the border, the export for the phosphor. So it's an important fact because they are representing 30% market share on the world scale. So if China does not export anymore the phosphate, so it will be creating a lot of problem. Then the price of the nitrogen is very high due to the high level of the energy. And to produce nitrogen, it is requesting a lot of energy. So, of course, it is making the production cost of the corn at a high level. And then you have this matter of transportation cost, which can impact, of course, the cost of the raw material, the delivered cost. And you have as well the exchange rate, euro and US. It is impacting the transfer from one continent to the other one. The starch industry is very demanding at the moment as well. So it can create some tension in some area, for instance, in northeast of France, in Alsace, for instance, where there is a lot of starch industry. The demand for the corn and the wheat is high. So the corn could be more expensive than in other area because of some cash premium you have to pay on the top of the EURONEXT price to get the raw material. And the barley is as well very expensive because the crop was not so good. And barley is a cereals which is a competitor of corn because it is providing energy. So when barley is expensive, it is expensive as well for the brewery industry. The brewery industry is using a lot of brewery barley. So, and when the brewery industry is paying a lot of money for the barley, they try to buy more corn to replace the barley. So it can create some appeal on the corn grits market. Concerning the bearish factors, it's difficult to find some significant one at the time, but who knows, because the things are changing so fast time to time. So we can expect a better crop in US than the prediction or the forecast. Then you have as well the EU crop, which is at a good level. Ukraine crop is as well expected very good, maybe less than the best estimate. The feed wheat could weigh as well on the corn price because I said that 30% of the wheat has been discarded. It can be not used anymore in the food destination, so it will be dedicated to animal feeding. So, and you have negative cash premium on this wheat. For instance, if you buy some wheat today, you have to pay EURONEXT plus 5 plus 10. And if you buy for the food, if you buy wheat for the feed, you get it at EURONEXT minus 20, minus 25. So of course it is competing, it is making a competition between the feed wheat and the corn wheat. And in Chinese, it seems that they expect a good corn crop, which is meaning less import. So in addition to that, it's not a nice year to talk about the cost of the raw material because everything is on the rise and a significant rise. So you have some indicator for the brand, for the coal, for the carbon print tax, which is impacting seriously on the energy cost, especially the electricity. So electricity is the energy from the electric energy price is made from the price level of the coal, but as well because of the tax that the EU has implemented for the carbon footprint. So there is a market for that, a stock market, and there is speculation. And the price of the electricity is directly connected to the level of the tax for the global GES. So for the packing cost as well, the demand is so high that suddenly we had a very high cost increase since the beginning of the year, and it is still lasting, even though we have observed some calm down, but the market is very tough and tight. So time to time, it's difficult to get the packing. It's not a matter of price, it's a matter of availability, and it is particularly significant for the wood pallet, because most of the wood is exported to US or to China, and the market is very demanding, so the level of stock is very, very low. So be careful with that. Let's talk about the situation of the corn in our area, which is named La Limagne. And let's talk about our identity corn preserve organization, production preserve organization. So you know that when we consider the corn for the milling purpose, we have to look at the technological quality of the corn. In the market, on the world scale, we observe three different quality corn. The dent corn, which is very floury corn, which is mostly dedicated to animal feeding and starch industry. Then you have the dent flint corn, which is in between the flint one and the dent one. It's a compromise, I would say. This corn is suitable for the corn milling industry because there is a much more vitreous part. And for the corn milling industry, we are looking for a high content of vitreous starch in the kernel. And of course, the best quality corn for the corn milling is Argentinian Plata, but this corn is less and less available and more expensive to get, and it is suffering a lot of competition from the dent corn production in Argentina, meaning that the farmer in Argentina or in Brazil, they prefer to produce a very high yield from the dent corn than low yield from flint corn, even though there is some quality premium to encourage the production of the flint corn. So in France, in our area, we are focusing on this dent flint corn, which is a compromise between flint and dent, and which is fitting to our corn milling industry. So we have to pay significant quality premium to the farmer to get this quality, because the yield is still low compared to the dent corn. And it is really an issue that we have to consider every year to make sure that the farmer, they are continuing to produce this quality corn, which is necessary to the corn milling industry. And it's not only the case of Limagro ingredients, it's a case of the European corn milling industry. We are facing this kind of issue, meaning the availability of the dent flint or flint corn in the European market. So the quality of the corn is giving different milling yield in terms of semolina, for instance, or flaking grits, and it is as well a matter of RVA profile. So when you use an extruder afterward with the flour or the corn grits, so you can observe significant difference of viscosity when you use dent corn or dent flint or flint corn. So it is an important parameter for those who are using extruder to process the corn grits or the corn flour into finished product. So this is very important, because to consider that, and the consistency of the raw material is definitely a very important criteria to respect and to follow up. So meaning that from day 1 till day 365, we need to get the same quality raw material to make sure that we have the same quality process finished product. So, and in Limagro Ingredients, our identity preserve organization is allowing us to secure the consistent raw material quality, whatever it is, safety or technological aspect. So this is just a presentation of what I was explaining to you, the difference between the two quality of corn. Now I have terminated my presentation. Of course, your question and your comment are very much welcome, and I am at your disposal to answer this question. In any case, thank you very much for your attention. It's a pleasure to share this information with you, and I hope that you are going to have a very nice sourcing of right quality corn, and the Limagrain Ingredients is at your disposal to share this topic, of course.
Thanks a lot, Claude. Sorry, we are a bit late,
Really?
but this year, this year crop was so particular that we needed to take more time, and Claude did it very well. So thanks a lot for that. We have a few questions, so we will take time to answer to 2 or 3 of them. The first one is, what is your view on the possible La Niña effect on the South American crop?
This is a difficult question to answer, because this type of event, the climate event, is specific to South America. So at the moment, in that area, they are observing some rainfall, but definitely there is a risk of La Niña impact. So meaning that we could have once again some drought during what we name winter time or springtime. But once again, I cannot give you more information than the one you can find, or the comment you can find in different from different sources, because it's a matter of weather prediction. And if I had the full knowledge of that, I would be rich, because you can imagine that it's very important when we want to go to the market. But for sure, this is something to look after, definitely.
Thank you. A second one about the corn quality side. Is there a higher risk of propanalkaloid this crop versus previous ones? Has Limagrain noticed any warning versus this toxin?
So propanalkaloid is becoming more and more important topic, because now there is a regulation which is in force for a very short period of time, and it's due to the change of the EU regulation. The problem is that the propanalkaloid is originated from seeds and from some vegetal that you can find in different crops, including the corn, for instance. And this is something which is developing, because you know that less and less pesticides are authorized to farm now. And of course, the development of this vegetal, which is giving some seeds containing some propanalkaloid, is a concern for the corn production. But this kind of risk can be overcome if, of course, the farmers, they pay attention to that, and they get rid of the vegetal which are giving such a contaminant. And as well, it can be overcome if you have a good cleaning of the corn, because the datura, which is the vegetal species which is giving the seeds with propanalkaloid, is giving very small seeds. So when you clean the corn, you can get rid of the seeds, but you have to be careful. For instance, but it's mostly due to the silage. When you harvest the full plant of the corn, you harvest as well the datura. And when you make the fodder from them, the silage, it's a very key issue for the silage, the corn silage. For the corn grain, it's a little bit less important, provided you make the right cleaning of the corn, and you instruct your farmer as well to be careful with this datura vegetal.
Thank you, Claude. We will take just one last question. We have several other ones, but we will come back to you particularly and right after this webinar. But regarding the timing, we can just take one last. This one is there any impact of the late harvest on water absorption or any other properties of maize flour especially for the French maize.
So concerning the water absorption, I presume that you talk about the corn flour, the water absorption of the corn flour. First, the situation is different compared to the wheat situation. This year, for instance, the people who want to make the bread, for instance, the bread making, we observe less water absorption to make the bread. So, of course, it is generating some higher cost, processing cost to make the bread. For the corn, it's a different story. At the moment, we don't have enough information from the new crop. We are following up the RVA, the viscosity level. So within few weeks, I guess that we will in better position to provide with new information about the viscosity level of the crop. Definitely, the viscosity level is a little bit different this year, but I don't know so far if it is impacting on the extrusion side, for instance, on the water absorption. So this is something that you can share with our technical people, especially Véronique Forest, for instance, because we have the possibility to make some extrusion tests at our side, of course, because we have extruder, and we have as well some measurement of the viscosity level with the RVA and so on. So this is definitely an interesting topic to follow up and to look after.
Thank you. So unfortunately, we have to end this webinar session. So if you have any questions afterwards, you can go directly to your sales representative and we will come back to you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Claude. See you next year.
You're welcome.
And have all a great day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.